What's the dumbest shit that never ceases to make you laugh? The dad at Comedy Barn that laughs so funny that the whole show breaks down. Video from 2007, but as funny now as it was then. Edit, thanks for all the awards. At the time of posting the thread was already on the front page and I wasn't sure if posting something new would make much sense. Seeing how this many people enjoyed it, I'm glad I still did smile. Handwritten posters where they didn't plan the lettering sizes properly, so the beginning of the poster has huge letters, but then you can see where they start to panic because the lettering gets smaller and closer together. Bonus points if they have to finish the last bit curving vertically down the side. I will have to pull over while driving when I see this shit because it gets me laughing so hard. Mine's the Who's line where Ryan is Carol Channing but his head keeps getting stuck to things. He slams his head into Drew's desk and breaks the lights. Everybody is stuck between laughing really hard and trying to show concern while Ryan himself is refusing to break character despite his worry that he might have glass in his head. In the ISOP episode Who Got Dee Pregnant, where she slowly turns into a bird, the scene where Mac is talking to her and she's just a full-on ostrich, I've seen that episode countless times and still burst out in laughter. Also the scene in Arrested Development where the entire Bluth family is impersonating chickens. I'm just now seeing a pattern. In the UK there is a town called Long Eaton, with a short train platform so you can't leave the train from the last two cars. I was sat in one of those two cars and had to leave the train at Long Eaton. Please move to one of the front 6 coaches announcement. Some guy got up and muttered under his breath, clearly not that fucking long is it then, before moving forward in the train. I came here to post my own, which is also Butters related. I can't remember the name of the episode, but it's the one where they all buy ninja weapons and it's half done in an anime aesthetic. The point where Kenny throws an ninja star and it cuts back to real life and Butters is just stood there with the throwing star implanted and begins to scream never ceases to make me laugh. I remember watching it on television when it aired. I think I was about 11 at the time and nothing in my life had ever come close to making me laugh like that. It was right before the cut to adverts and I remember still being actually rolling on the floor laughing, still struggling to breathe by the time it came back from adverts. Still, I think that is the hardest I've ever laughed about anything whilst sober. Courtroom bailiff here. During COVID we had a Zoom hearing where the attorney's secretary had brought her young son to work due to the daycares being closed. The son had been playing with the settings, in particular the audio settings, on the computer used for these meetings. When the judge brought the attorney in, his voice sounded like he had been sucking helium for the last 10 minutes and he couldn't figure out how to turn the filter off. Judge kept a straight face but we were dying laughing in the courtroom. In the end they had to mute his audio and he called in and was placed on speakerphone so they could do the hearing. My wife loves decorative pillows. She has a lot for our couch in the basement and also in our bedroom. I counted and for some reason there are 14 pillows that we take off the bed every night before bed and we put them back up in the morning. When the guy in the commercial looks at the woman with all the pillows on her couch and says, "If there's nowhere to sit there's too many," my wife and I make eye contact every time and I start laughing. I had taken a few edibles one night and eventually fell asleep, had a short dream and woke myself up laughing. In my dream, I'd met a man who had made his fortune by genetically modifying fish. I'd asked him what his fish are modified to do because judging by his vast wealth it must have been something miraculous that benefited all mankind like secreting insulin or saving lives in some way. He told me that his genetically modified fish were called stinker dinkers and they had been genetically modified to smell twice as fishy as an ordinary fish. I lost my shit. I laughed until I couldn't cry anymore and had to leave the bedroom because I was laughing so hard that my wife couldn't sleep. I still start laughing every time that I remember it. How the fuck did my mind think up this dumb shit? Had a 3-year-old that used to live upstairs, be around my sister a lot. 16-17 at the time, It culminated in the 3-year-old going to her grandmother's house and announcing to her, in that half giggle that kids do when they know they're doing what they shouldn't. I just took a big shit. The kid's mom was angry about it, but scolding us didn't work because we were in tears from laughing so hard. So now it's just a fun story. I did that once walking down the high street in my small town. It looks so stupid. I ducked down an alleyway laughing uncontrollably and weirdly bumped into a friend who started laughing too. This was 20 plus years ago, but it's a memory I always remember because of how silly I felt. Why? It's raining out here. I think I'll use my handheld head bucket and start a collection of raindrops whilst also making myself 2 foot taller. There was a video in the early days of YouTube called Chuck's Super Hop. It featured a guy named Chuck jumping over random objects in a hotel conference room to the Two Gun theme song. There's a huge build-up for his grand jump, but he catches his toe and smashes his shins on a table. I'd give nearly anything to have that video in my possession. My high school was small, 7th through 12th grade all together. When we were in 8th grade, my best friend calmly opened her burrito and threw it at her brother, who was a senior. Really bad throw. It stuck to the wall pretty high up. The table of seniors were laughing so hard they couldn't breathe as it slowly slid down the wall. The stain was there for the rest of the year. Side note, my future husband was sitting at that table of seniors and we both remembered the burrito incident when we started dating years later. This video of a cat absolutely putting himself into the door of a French bakery, not only that it exists, but the fact that A, it made it to air, and B, they probably added that sound in post-production, because, as was pointed out to me by a sound engineer the last time I mentioned this clip, it wouldn't have made sense for them to have been recording audio for a B-roll footage like that. Also the fact that Felicity Huffman is married to William H. Macy, making their couple name William H. Muffman. It's just fun to say. There's this guy that has a podcast and one time he said about a Thomas the Tank Engine picture that it was about the size of a good fish. That same day I saw a pretty big fish sitting frozen in a freezer all by itself at the grocery and I thought that's about the size of a good fish and couldn't stop giggling to myself that whole time. I'm 43, and according to my wife, and, well, me too, apparently I stopped mentally maturing at around 14 years old. I tell people that I have 2 kids, and my wife has 3, me being the oldest and largest. We were all watching some kind of semi-serious show on TV recently. I think a judge character said something about doing one's duty. I looked at my wife and my daughter mischievously, laughed a fake laugh, and said haha. She said duty. My wife wasn't nearly as amused as I was. And a few years ago, my wife had a student with the last name of Duty. I'd chuckle every time I helped her grade papers and would read that student's name to my wife so she could record the score. Haha. Duty. Every damned time. Me and the woman I live together with have made up a fictional TV sitcom where one of the main characters is an insane 94-year-old woman. She believes she is married to her 69-year-old son-in-law, has a strange obsession with butter, and intentionally makes life interesting for everyone around her. The whole thing has gotten very elaborate and incredibly stupid. We have been joking about this thing almost every day for more than 6 years now. There's a scene in Hot Shots Part 2 where they are jumping out of a plane. They all shout Geronimo. Then there is a stereotypical semi-offensive Native American who jumps out and screams me. I literally LOL every time just thinking about it. It's just perfectly timed in the way Ryan Stiles and a few others say it fully straight-laced. Then Geronimo shows up and says me. Just perfect. This probably isn't what you are looking for, but I used to be really fat but only in my belly. One day I was taking my grandmother to the doctor and we couldn't find any handicapped parking. As we drove past a bunch of parking spaces marked for expecting mothers, my grandmother pointed and says, "We can park there, look there." I turned to her without missing a beat and said, "How dare you, madam, I am not pregnant, I am just fat." My grandmother looked at me in shock and then started laughing and laughing. That was 8 years ago or so and it still makes me laugh when I think about it. The dude that was at a youth hockey game and he goes to hit the glass and it just fucking explodes. Then the lady in the background who goes, "Way to go, Paul." Honorable mention to the guy from Alabama that was campaigning for that rapist asshole who was certain that public servants had to swear in on a Bible. His deer in the headlights look when Cuomo corrects him on live TV makes me laugh every damn time. Not mine, but a story a friend told me. He was in work when he noticed one of the guys pouring the carton of milk into a different container. All of the other guys questions him, and he replied because it's out of date. This begged the next question as to why he was pouring the milk into another container, and with a straight face he replied, because that's when the carton is out of date. I had tears when I was told that story and still giggled. The scene in Friends when Ross walks into the costume shop and the cashier asks him, "You here to return those pants?" I can make myself lose it if I think about the scene. Why would he wear the pants if he was there to return them? Were his pants that goofy that they were costume pants? He'd have to take them off then walk home in his boxers or get other costume pants. I bet a thing Ross would do, just go to the costume shop every other day and switch out his pants. People at the gas station that I work at expect you to read their minds, so we have this one person who, mind you, comes in every fucking day. He gives us $5, sits there staring at the wall. One of us asks what's the money for. He looks at us like we're blue aliens speaking some different language, and says it's for gas. What else could be for? My manager, bless his heart, just turns around, gives him his money back and says go fuck yourself asshole with this shit-eating grin. I love this place, I swear. I have a doozy for you. I read it online on a parenting forum and have never forgotten it. A woman was in hospital to have her baby and it looked like the time had come close for delivery. She felt the urge to push and did so with all her might at the exact moment her bowels decided to empty themselves. Onlookers said they'd never seen the likes of it. It all came out pressure hose style, clear across the room and onto the facing wall. All, that is, except for the outline of the unfortunate nurse who happened to be standing there at the time. Mom was mortified but fine, and the baby considerately came out later when all was cleaned up. I felt very sorry for the poor woman, but damn I laughed. One of those bloopers shows, Dick Clark? From the 80s, I think. The sports anchor was talking about a retiring pitcher when he read a quote someone had said about how fast he could throw. It was said that he could throw several pitches through a car wash, and never get his balls wet. He's finishing that sentence, and realizes what he is saying, and everyone at the anchor desk is unable to proceed because they are laughing so hard. Even the camera is jiggling a little as the cameraman laughed. Those drug commercials where towards the end the narrator/announcer or whatever starts listing all the shit that could go horribly wrong, juxtaposed with people happily dancing or laughing with loved ones. My favorite is that one ad I see on Hulu about the V-word with all those women dancing to colored backgrounds, and at the end they're just getting really into their dance while the voice is mentioning all sorts of horrible shit like vaginal bleeding lol. Here's a link. https://b/. Also, inappropriate farts are always hilarious. Okay, so this is kinda fucked up. But it's about me so oh well. I'm epileptic and have been for about 13 years now. My seizures can range from a burning sensation in my knee to a blank stare or even extremely rarely, grand mal seizures. Anyways. My wife freaks out pretty bad when I have seizures and one time she decided to film me. It was a pretty serious seizure, I'd say 8/10. She decided to show it to me once. I started dying laughing and couldn't stop for 10 minutes. I'm choking with my 3-month-old daughter on my chest asleep trying not to laugh and wake her just typing this. I look so stupid but my response will never not be a laugh. I don't want to offend anyone who has seizures because I take it very seriously and the pain and fear of loved ones is enough to make you feel guilty just for suffering from them. That said, I have one rule pertaining to comedy and it absolutely applies to myself. In comedy, either everything is off limits or nothing is. I generated stories, I think because structurally, It is fine and often it makes fake sense, but there is just something off in a way that a human could not easily fake. For instance, /u/TheGentlemeter was posting using AI-generated replies for a while. Check his top posts, and they make me laugh so hard, and I'm not easy to make laugh. Similarly, when you translate an English phrase back and forth between languages using Google Translate, that also can generate some phrases that are funny for similar reasons. I'd cry, but I find my BFS farts so hilarious. There's an art to how he toots. He finds the best time to pass gas. I'm dead serious too. I can't help but bust out laughing at his timing with it. He's not even trying to be funny either. He's got tummy problems. After 6 years of dating and tootin', I never get tired of it. Lol, it's not a sick fetish either. I'd never let him toot in my face. He'll excuse himself if they are smelly too. Lol, he's such a gentleman about it. XD. When with friends and in traffic, roll down your window and pull next to someone and motion for them to roll down their window. When they roll it down, roll yours up and look away. So fucking stupid, but it's so funny. The best was a friend did it from the back seat with 2 others back there to a guy on the other side of the car with his family. He had a hard time getting him to roll his windows down, but when he did, he had to crank the window down slowly. It was great. Inspector Klaus saw, talking to a man with a dog sitting next to him, in a crazy French accent. "Excuse me, sir. Does your dog bite?" Man with dog sitting next to him. "No, my dog does not bite." Klaus, dog, man, Klaus, visibly disheveled, tending wounds. "I thought you said your dog does not bite." Man, "That's not my dog." From Return of the Pink Panther. Shed cracks me up every time. Berlin Airport Building Simulator, or whatever it's called. It's a game made by Postillon24, basically satire news like The Onion but in German. It's a building sim where you, well, have to build the airport in Berlin, but there's stupid shit happening all the time that costs you money and time, so you'll never be able to finish the airport. I don't know if it's available for other languages too, but if you understand German and want to laugh your ass off, download this game. Probably when an ex-employee was asked for a martini with 3 olives at the bar, but not being the most competent bartender and having to follow step-by-step instructions for making a martini, must have confused martini and margarita in our cocktail recipe booklet. She followed the entire recipe, step by step, for making a nice margarita, and handed it to the guest topped with olives. Had a 3-year-old that used to live upstairs, be around my sister a lot. 16-17 at the time, It culminated in the 3-year-old going to her grandmother's house and announcing to her, in that half giggle that kids do when they know they're doing what they shouldn't, "I just took a big shit." The kid's mom was angry about it, but scolding us didn't work because we were in tears from laughing so hard. So now it's just a fun story. I had taken a few edibles one night and eventually fell asleep, had a short dream and woke myself up laughing. In my dream, I'd met a man who had made his fortune by genetically modifying fish. I'd asked him what his fish are modified to do because judging by his vast wealth it must have been something miraculous that benefited all mankind, like secreting insulin or saving lives in some way. He told me that his genetically modified fish were called stinker dinkers and they had been genetically modified to smell twice as fishy as an ordinary fish. I lost my shit. I laughed until I couldn't cry anymore and had to leave the bedroom because I was laughing so hard that my wife couldn't sleep. I still start laughing every time that I remember it. How the fuck did my mind think up this dumb shit? I came here to post my own, which is also Butters related. I can't remember the name of the episode, but it's the one where they all buy ninja weapons and it's half done in an anime aesthetic. The point where Kenny throws an ninja star and it cuts back to real life and Butters is just stood there with the throwing star implanted and begins to scream never ceases to make me laugh. I remember watching it on television when it aired. I think I was about 11 at the time and nothing in my life had ever come close to making me laugh like that. It was right before the cut to adverts and I remember still being actually rolling on the floor laughing. still struggling to breathe by the time it came back from adverts. Still, I think that is the hardest I've ever laughed about anything whilst sober.